How many continents do we have on Earth? Many people will say 7. They are wrong. You will be parroting a con introjected into your consciousness by those that want you to believe that there are 7 continents. There is only one continent, the Earth. Let us consider this matter to our channel, to like, to comment, to share, as well as to enroll into our Bantu Foundation universities to study with us in Bantu mysteries as well as Bantu identity. We are inviting you to enjoy this year's African New Year 6261. It will be hosted by Marifado Family, a network all over the earth. The main celebrations will be held in Gokwe, Nyaje, Zimbabwe. You can contact Elder Shutangwenya on the phone number shown here or send us an email on join@marifado.com. If you are in West Africa, you can also attend this same function hosted by Prince Udo Ibiono. You can send us an email on join@marifado.com. So hosting in the United States for the first time this year, it will be hosted in California and hosted by Baba Shuja Mafalme Mtafiti. You can email us on join@marifado.com. In South Africa and you want to attend a New Year celebration, African New Year, it will be hosted by Great Empire of Hamid, and you can contact them on this email shown here. And you can also give them a call phone number given here. Some scholars and those that are highly educated who lead you into understanding and thinking that there are only a number of continents. And ancient scholars from antiquity set up the confusion about our home. It is important for us to understand that geographers and thinkers like the Greeks, Ptolemy in his 2nd century work, Geographia, depicted Africa as a smaller continent than Asia and Europe based on the limited knowledge that they had at that time. Yet Africa is the largest continent. Ortelius, in his 1570 atlas, Theatrium Orbis Terratum, depicted Africa again as smaller, reflecting their biased knowledge, even though it was the Enlightenment age and the Renaissance. Mercator Gerard Dudas in 1569 also portrayed Africa as a smaller continent than all the other continents because of their idea that since Europe was colonizing and exploring all over the earth, Africa could be smaller, it should be bigger. So when you look at this map, you can actually think that Africa is smaller than Greenland, which is rather funny and rather out of this world. So because of this miseducation, a lot of us are now thinking small without us knowing, because our subconscious mind has been programmed to think like that. Speed's map in 1627, the English cartographer, published a world map that depicted Africa as smaller than other continents, reflecting on the prevailing Eurocentric perspective of the time, which is still the perspective we carry today. But concept of continents is not a timeless truth. That is a fact that we must start to understand and to start to internalize. Rather, the concept of continents is a colonial fabrication designed to fragment humanity and make control easier. Before colonialism, people did not think of land masses as separate into distinct continents. Instead, they saw the whole earth as a continuous space where boundaries were fluid, largely shaped by geography, culture, trade, artificial divisions, and other divisions that were there, or the livability of the place. The modern world map that you have today already separates you into continents and taking advantage of the split of Pangaea. It is meant not to be like that in our thinking, but because of the ambitions of colonial powers, they justified control over lands, over resources and people by defining territories and forcing nations into artificial boundaries. The meaning of the word continent itself is continere. It's Latin, means to hold together like a container. Terra continents, continuous land. Continent is the word that came from continere, meaning the container. So it is the earth that is the container, not specific regions. There is a reason why they want specific regions to be continents. The imposition of this idea of continents is to divide the earth into segments so that they can control them, rule them, and run programs over the objects or people that dwell in those compartmentalized situations and easy to manage, because they only need to manage the leaders, and then they can manage and dominate 8 billion people easily like that. The ancient world knew, and the people and the lands and cultures accepted that there were no limits where you can live. As long as you were peaceful, nomadic tribes, traders, explorers moved freely, other than the robbers and other thugs that were there at that time. This issue of land masses has been created for boundaries and continents by cartographers, who then divided the continents and they removed the natural boundaries that could have been negotiated easily. Rivers, mountains, and ecosystems, they are not restricted by these lines that they drew. Yet humans today are restricted by these lines. If you consider, for example, that Africa would be the largest continent if we are to go by water and say only the land mass surrounded by water, because there is no division between Africa and Asia. None at all. You can walk from any part of Africa right into Asia to the furthest part of Asia, as well as to the furthest part of Europe, without any arbitrary borders that stops you. The way continents are divided reflects a distinct Eurocentric worldview. The separation of Europe from Asia, for example, is completely arbitrary. Europe is technically a part of the same landmass as Asia, and by extension, is Africa. Europe as distinct, exceptional, superior as a continent is a clearly colonial strategy to justify its geopolitical power and to draw a line between the civilized and the other, making the East as fundamentally different and distant despite geographic proximity. The arbitrary division of continents like Europe, Asia, Africa, Americas is just for politics, it's not truth. The borders create the passports and control of movement of people. With the invention of continents, then, restrictive borders, passports, visas, and citizenship laws could easily be now formulated. Migration can easily be controlled. Only the privileged ones will be given diplomatic passports and diplomatic visas, and the plebeians or the servants will be given ordinary passport, which can be taken away from them, and the right to travel can be withdrawn easily. This system ensures that these colonial powers can control labor, extract resources, and maintain dominance over other people and other populations. Passports and migration laws are tools of divisions. Imagine the following. The myth of Africa as a dark continent. One of the most harmful colonial constructs was the labeling of Africa as the dark continent or backward continent. This term was popularized during the 19th century, and that justification led them to easily colonize, easily exploit, easily abuse, and commit genocide, because they were in the dark continent that needed light. And they then went on to say it is dangerous, it's an undeveloped landmass. While the reality, however, is that Africa was home to the oldest people, to the first advanced civilizations on earth, Hamitic civilization, the Kushite civilization, Mali, Wagadu, Mwenemtapa, Lubu, Bemba, Himba, Nzambi, the Sun, which had all been there from 200,000 years BCE, if we were to go by the evidence that is given. Natural land masses and human imagination is limited by these artificial borders. Imagine if you step back and look at the earth today as a natural thinker. The concept of continents dissolves and falls away. Continents are arbitrary. They are just divisions that exist against natural forms. For example, Eurasia is one continuous landmass, yet it is divided into Europe and Asia for historical and political reasons. Similarly, the separation of North and South America is colonial. There is no boundary, there are no borders there. The earth doesn't care about these borders. It is one interconnected system of life and ecosystem across the whole planet. Colonial maps were actually drawn as natural and neutral tools for discovery, and also tools to be used as instruments for power. The way continents were drawn reflected the political ambitions of colonial powers, allowing them to claim territories, divide lands, and separate peoples and rule over them. When these borders were drawn, the people in these continents were not consulted. The ethnic and cultural and linguistic realities of the people there were thrown away, leading to conflicts today that persist today. The ideas of fighting for these borders, the ideas of passports for these borders, the ideas of immigration, migration for these borders was the desire that the colonists wanted. We need to decolonize our minds and our thinking. And when we do that, we reclaim unity and break down these colonial borders in our brains. There is no such thing, really, in all honesty, as diaspora or expatriate or foreigner. There is none like that, because we are all on one continent on the earth. This idea of continents is a colonial legacy designed to divide humanity and exert control. By artificially separating land masses and restricting human movement, colonial powers created systems that continue to oppress and exploit. In reality, the earth is a single interconnected entity, and the divisions we adhere to today are arbitrary at best, destructive at worst. It's time to recognize that these divisions were never natural, and they can never work when people wake up to these realities, because they will continue to be brought about. Continents perpetuate global inequality. Continents perpetuate the fallacy of nationalism, divide humans and causing them to fight each other, to spill blood, to abuse and hate each other, generating great ignorance, which is also the paddock mentality. Just like animals, and how we use animals, we eat them, we use them for sports, we abuse them, we experiment with them. That is what has happened. Just like the Berlin Conference of 1884-1885, whereby some powers met, European powers, 14 European powers, including America, met to decide on the borders of Africa. The Berlin Conference took place at a time when European powers were rushing to establish direct political control in Africa. This race to expand European colonial influence is often referred to as the scramble for Africa. Africans were not involved. Just like this Berlin Conference, humanity might have been tricked, or may have been tricked, or is being tricked to allow the scramble for earth. It is clear that the idea of continents is a colonial legacy designed to divide humanity. But when you divide humanity by these artificial separating means, and restrict our movements, there must be a goal somewhere, and that goal is to colonize the whole earth and to make the earth a prison. If you do not think in the manner that we are demonstrating in this video, you are already colonized mentally, and you are already miseducated by the 7-continent globecon. It is important that you understand that the earth is a prison from which you need to escape. The educated knowledge that you carry around and boast of about the 7 continents means that in your consciousness you have been bound and imprisoned by that general perspective and by the specific perspective of national borders on top of the continental borders. And these are powerful tools if you do not think seriously, because you are now able to separate yourself from other human beings. You are now able to prevent yourself from freely going to other places and to become a common member of humanity. You want to become special, and the issues of racism and hatred arises because of that mentality. When you let go of that mentality, you saw beyond any highest star. To escape and to get the right instruments and tools, you need to practice righteous cultural practices that honor every human being and respect the ideology of every human being, and not to be preachy about your religion on others as if you know God, or as if you know the real creator, as if you have been sent by the real creator. You are a liar if you are preaching to somebody to convert to your religion. Only Ubuntu Ma'at never at any given time preached for converts or searched for converts. We lived our own lives peacefully without preaching. We never devised borders. That's why we were able to fill the whole earth. We didn't need a passport. We didn't need any restrictions. So, for us to be able to understand Ubuntu Ma'ati solutions to these modern problems, we invite you to enroll into Bantu University and study Bantu Foundations, where we look at salvation that is coming from the right applied knowledge. You don't have to pressurize anybody or force anybody or push people around or lie to them or frighten them or give them trinkets. You just have to share your knowledge. The borders are not ours. The continents are prisons, large prisons, paddocks. Your Hamaneja Topi, priest teacher Rabbi LM Dumizulu Kunikenim Jakanja says, subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and share, and let us walk this journey together. Amen.